let's write some test cases now. So I will copy this, Control C, and I will go to the test package, Alt Insert, Java class, Control V, and then mark it as test. Okay. Now to save some time, I will copy the test cases from some previous class. So I'm going to the very naive implementation, which chapter 4. I'll copy everything from here, Control C, and I'll go back to the proxy pattern test, Control V. Now let's make some changes accordingly for this chapter. So first of all, I will change the name of this serialized file with the class name. Test class, the setup is looking good. Now let's change the serialize method, right? So Java POJO with proxy pattern. Proxy pattern. Similarly, I will do it for the deserialize as well with proxy pattern. Okay. Now let me change the name of the Java POJO object for chapter 22. So it should be, okay, this one. Okay. So there is nothing special here. We create this POJO object for the enclosing class, and we set the state of it by calling all the setter methods. And once we call this write object method, so inside that, as we know that in the write object, we are actually creating a write replace method here. So what will happen is that the write replace would be called before the write object, which will actually serialize the inner class instance instead of the enclosing class instance. But this inner class, static inner class marketed proxy is also like serialized by just taking the copy of the enclosing instance, as we have discussed. This constructor will be called, which will create all these private field members here and then generate it back. Let me also remove some spaces here. Okay, no, it's okay. Now let's go back to our test serialize. So the write object, this test serialize is looking good. Now let's write our test deserialize. So I will take this object same while we are casting it back, and when the seed object is called, we'll call the read resolve method from the inner class. So it should be from here. So this read resolve will be called, in which we are actually creating the original enclosing object inside this and then returning it back. So again, let me go back here so we can see that once we have this from serialized object, which we are actually constructing back from the read resolve method, all these static fields would be exactly same. And this is what we are going to assert now. So let's run all these test cases to see whether all our logic is correct or not. Before that, I will create some debug points because to ensure that how the flow is looking. So I will create a write replace. I will create here, and also in the read resolve inside the static class, inner class, I will create a debug point here. So let's go back again and debug our test cases. So let's me first of all debug this test deserialize. Go here and then call debug. So it should be launching soon and reach our breakpoint. Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry guys, I clicked on the wrong button for test deserialize. There was no file created, and that's why we got this section. We have to debug this test serialize first. Sorry. So I click on debug here. Only then it will create the file, right? So we create this market data with enclosing pattern, and now we have reached our write replace method. Now just note that for this instance is for the enclosing class, and now we are going to replace it in this write replace with the inner class new market data proxy. So if I go do F8 and do F7 here, so it is calling the constructor from the inner class, and then it will set all of these fields and return this. I will function F9 now, and now our serialized file has been written. So we can see that the debug statements are also written here, that inside the enclosing class write replace, which we have created. So our serialized file has been created now, and we have serialized the inner class market data proxy instead of the original class copy of it. So let's now test our deserialized method now. I hope it's not any error now. So I'll click on debug. So again, in the read object, it will call the read resolve method. So as expected, we are here, and it's inside the read resolve method of the inner class, static class. And here we will create the enclosing class instance. So let me go function. Okay, we got function here. Normally it should be just F8 in some of the keyboards. Just press F8 here, and now we are creating this enclosing class object parameter. And then I will do this in F9 to resume the test, and we expect that the test is passed. So as expected, that we are inside proxy read resolve. Now, because we are going the proper way, using the singleton pattern, the read object from the original, from the enclosing class is not called, because we have already written our read resolve method. And that is the beauty of proxy pattern, that we are trying to protect our enclosing class by throwing an exception in the read object, which is not called here. Instead of that, it should be properly calling the read resolve method here. So mark data with proxy pattern and then security ID and all. So all this state is exactly same by creating the copy, which is logically equivalent to the one we have serialized. So guys, we have reached the end of our tutorial series on Java serialization, because we have covered chapter 22, proxy pattern. And I have created like around 13 problems, exercises, which we'll cover in the next chapter. But also what I'm thinking is that I should start other projects in parallel, because I found that just for creating this Java serialization series, covering these 22 chapters, we didn't cover a lot of other topics, which I have discussed in my introductory video. For example, so here, I mean, we have dynamic programming problems first. So our first type of projects was for data structures and algorithms. And now we are covering the persistence topic, in which we covered this Java serialization. We have other topics in persistence only, like canonical queue, Java JSON Jackson, protocol buffers and all. And also I create some advanced topics like Apache Spark for Java developers, and blockchain and cryptocurrency in Java and all, tech machine learning and art. So what I'm going to do is that from next series onwards, I will run 3 courses in parallel. So the next one I will also cover, and the next I will create 2 parallel tutorial series on Spark RDD and Spark SQL and all, and also blockchain and cryptocurrency in Java. And besides that, I will also start something on from data structures and algorithms like graphs, which I will quite interesting. I got a lot of requests to start on graphs or something. So I will cover these 2-3 topics in parallel. So just stay tuned with all my videos, and I hope that I will be providing you like all these topics in the most intuitive way possible. And I find that TDD way is a very good approach to teach all these problems, because it helps to like understand it in a much better way, and actually coding it in a unless you don't do a coding, unless you don't type the code and just listen to me, you will not gain too much. So I always request and suggest that you should type the code along with me and try to understand all these topics using the TDD approach, which is the test-driven approach, by writing a lot of unit test cases. So see you all in all this next video that I'm planning.